Deep thoughts. Welcome to Deep Thoughts, everybody. And today's Deep Thoughts is on Forgeworld. And I thought, what better time to give deep thoughts about Forgeworld than when I have a bunch of Forgeworlds in front of me. So if you've been, I've been collecting Forgeworld Sigmar monsters, and that's what this big baking tray is full of, Forgeworld Sigmar monsters. So I'm just kind of doing things up right now. I've got my colossal squig ready to go. I'm about to green stuff that. So I guess the question is, there's lots of questions about Forgeworld. There are some people who believe that Forgeworld is the reason why 40k sucks right now, or one of the reasons why it sucks right now. But what is it about Forgeworld that sucks? Well, the first time I encountered Forgeworld since re-entering the hobby was probably on Tabletop Tactics, watching a bat rep with the chef, or Mike, playing Tau, and they had a Yavara. And that thing is filthy. And I was thinking at the time, man, that thing's filthy. So I'm like, so I can imagine why people don't like Forgeworld. But then I've since changed my mind. I've now, I have lots of Forgeworld. It started off with the Mastodon, of course. And that was the very first thing I bought from Forgeworld. And I kind of fell in love with large resin things from Forgeworld as a result of that. And so the real question is Forgeworld the problem? What aspects are there of Forgeworld that are a problem? Well, number one, I guess, is the things generally are quite powerful. I mean, the Yavara is a good example of something that is really quite powerful. And, you know, lots of people are scared of Forgeworld for that reason. But a lot of the Forgeworld stuff is very expensive. Not only expensive in real money to buy, especially with the shipping and everything if you don't live in England, but expensive in terms of points. You know, I'll take the Mastodon for an example. Yeah, it's got great rules, but it's 700 points. You're not taking the Mastodon in most, definitely not at 1500, but even at 1850, you'd be pretty hard pressed to justify 700 points for a vehicle, granted a tough vehicle like a Mastodon. But maybe that's becoming less of a problem. I mean, Magnus, most people wouldn't hesitate building lists around Magnus, and he's almost the same number of points, but arguably he does more. In any case, so Forgeworld, I guess they feel that they balance their models out by using exorbitant points. And then, so that's one aspect of Forgeworld. Some people think it's too unbalanced because of how strong they are, but then some people think, well, that's made up for the fact that they are so expensive points-wise. And then there's the equity sort of argument that why should we allow Forgeworld if not everybody can afford it? Well, let's not kid ourselves. Warhammer is an expensive sport or game. Nobody who doesn't have good income is playing Warhammer, and so they shouldn't expect to buy Forgeworld. So by that argument, I mean, everybody's got at least a certain level of income to even play this game. So I don't know how much that argument holds water, but certainly, you know, access and equity could be an argument. And then it's the fact that they write rules that don't seem to be reviewed very often. They have yet to release any FAQs, and the rules are often not fully consistent with the rest of the rule set, especially as the rule set evolves. And so that is probably the biggest problem with Forgeworld, is that the rules don't stay up to date with the rest of the game and all the releases that come out. And that itself is, I think that's the biggest problem with Forgeworld. And it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting any FAQs or anything from Forgeworld anytime soon. So does that mean we should just dump Forgeworld? Well, lots of people do. So ETC format, for example, just blanket no Forgeworld. Make it simple, no Forgeworld. ITC bans some Forgeworld and not others, seemingly to some people arbitrarily. To some other people, there's a rhyme or a reason to it. And then some allow certain things and not others. So there's variations out there in terms of how people treat Forgeworld, and I guess it's really up to you if you're a TO how you want to deal with Forgeworld. But it's certainly variable out there how people mess with Forgeworld. I'm of two minds. On one mind, I like letting people, including myself, play with the models that they have. Especially if you spent the money and the effort to get the Forgeworld models to work with resin, which is not often the easiest thing to work with. As you see here, I'm filling these gaps, and to paint it up and to transport these massive models. And as long as it's not breaking the meta like the Town are, then I think that should be okay. So that's one argument that I have. On the other hand, some things, it seems arbitrary what some people allow. So, for example, the ITC does not allow the Townar because it's too quote-unquote meta breaking or sets the meta, and that may be true. When Townars are allowed, those lists have been dominating. But then they allow Renegades, and Renegades won the LVO. That sounds to me like it's pretty dominating, and I've certainly played Renegades before, and it's a pretty hardcore matchup. So why is that allowed? So there's a little bit of hypocrisy when it comes to what's allowed and what's not allowed. And in any case, I just think if you're going to say Forgeworld or no Forgeworld, it should be pretty much across the board. I don't think you can pick and choose. You either allow people to bring whatever toys they want, or you don't allow them to bring whatever toys they want. I think it should be more blanket than that. For 40K, so we can go on and talk about Sigmar. So there is Forgeworld in Sigmar. Again, these are old models. I don't know if anything has been updated relatively recently. I think the points are updated by the General's Handbook, and these are almost exclusively monsters. Big monsters like this. And if you look at them, though, not many people take these monsters because they're not that good for their cost, points-wise. Not to mention the fact that they're expensive money-wise, and that sort of thing. Why am I taking them? Because I like big monsters, but not because I think they're going to win me any games or tournaments or anything. Just because I think it's cool to have big monsters on the table. And these are very cool models, very high-quality models. And Sigmar kind of is a game designed to not allow a single big model, win a game for you. Just the way that the missions are designed, that's not going to happen. So they have fail-safes against that in Sigmar. So it's okay, I feel. And some armies, like the Death Army, really benefits from a Morngul, for example. That's the only Forgeworld available, Death, and it's a strong monster, yes, but it's costed appropriately. It's 400 points, and that's 1/5 of the whole army in a 2,000-point game. And so if you bring that, you're giving up a lot. So I feel that that's okay. I better let this green stuff dry there. So, the Forgeworld question remains then for Sigmar, should you allow it or not? Then you have something like Sail, which is used in a lot of Chaos armies and is quite powerful just because of the ability that he can do. And so should you just ban Sail, or should you ban all of Forgeworld? I don't think you're going to go to a grand tournament in Sigmar and see these crazy monsters, So, I don't know the answer to that. I personally favor everyone being able to play what they want to play. And maybe I'm biased because I have Forge World models, but you know, I can play armies without Forge World. But I just like playing what I like to play, you know. For CanHammer Team Tournament, I would have brought my Mastodon list, but I'm not allowed to play Forge World. So it's always the age-old question. And so what should Forge World do? I mean, do we really need Forge World? You know, why don't just amalgamate the whole thing together and just GW some of their stuff is resin and some of it is plastic. A lot of the stuff is coming into plastic, as we see. Will 30K eventually all be going plastic? You know, who knows? And I don't know the historical basis behind Forge World versus Citadel or GW, but can it not be amalgamated? Somebody over there needs to take better control of rules and quality of rules if these models are going to come with rules. Should you just limit Forge World to big stuff like Titans and crazy stuff like that? You know, or should it also produce troop style things and monstrous creatures and other things that are more regularly used, right? Like nobody's going to see a Warlord Titan on a normal 40K game, but you know, so I don't know. These are good questions. If you have thoughts on Forge World, put them below. And thanks for watching Deep Thoughts as I green stuff my Colossal Forge World Colossal Squig model.